Rainy night. A true horror story. Introduction. The storm raged on, thunder roaring like a wild beast in the night sky. In the small, secluded town of Ravenswood, the streets lay deserted. Rain lashed against the windows of the solitary roadside inn, the Hollow Lantern, where a group of strangers had taken refuge. Emma Morrison, a young journalist with an unrelenting curiosity, stared out the window. She had come to Ravenswood chasing whispers of supernatural occurrences, determined to uncover the truth. What she didn't know was that the truth had claws, shadows, and a thirst for vengeance. The innkeeper, Mrs. Coldwell, a frail woman with pale eyes, shuffled toward the group. "You'll want to stay indoors tonight," she said, her voice low and raspy. "The storm's not the only thing out there." Chapter 1. Gathering of Strangers. Emma surveyed the room. 5 people, including herself, had sought refuge at the inn. Victor Reynolds, a middle-aged businessman with sharp features and a permanent scowl. He seemed out of place in his tailored suit. Martha and Roger Clark, an elderly couple with weathered faces and uneasy smiles. They clung to each other as though sharing an unspoken secret. Liam Hayes, a brooding artist in his early 30s, his hands stained with paint. He sat alone, sketching furiously in a battered notebook. The group exchanged awkward pleasantries before retreating to their corners. Emma noticed that none of them seemed eager to share why they were there, but something about their silence unsettled her. Chapter 2. The First Incident. As the storm intensified, the lights flickered. Mrs. Coldwell appeared again, her expression grave. "Whatever you do, don't wander outside tonight. The storm doesn't like to be disturbed." Victor scoffed. "What does that even mean? I'm going to get some air." Before anyone could stop him, Victor grabbed his coat and stepped into the rain. Minutes turned into an hour, and Victor didn't return. Liam glanced at the door nervously. He should have been back by now. Reluctantly, the group ventured outside with lanterns. They found Victor's briefcase and scarf in a puddle near the edge of the forest. The scarf was torn and soaked in something darker than rainwater. Chapter 3. The Whispering Shadows. The group returned to the inn, shaken. "Mrs." Coldwell muttered under her breath, her pale eyes darting to the rain-streaked windows. "It started again." "What started?" Emma demanded. The innkeeper hesitated before pulling a dusty book from a cabinet. "The town's history is cursed," she whispered. "A woman named Eliza Gray was accused of witchcraft and burned alive decades ago. She cursed the town before she died, promising vengeance during the fiercest storms." Liam frowned. "That's just a story, right?" Mrs. Coldwell didn't answer. Instead, she pointed to an old photograph on the wall. It showed a group of villagers standing around a pyre. In the background was the inn, unchanged, except for the shadows that seemed to twist unnaturally in the picture. Emma's curiosity was piqued. What's her connection to this inn? "This was her home," the innkeeper replied. Chapter 4. The Curse Revealed. Emma couldn't sleep that night. She crept to the library where she found an old journal belonging to Eliza Gray. The entries were filled with anguish and fury, detailing how the townsfolk had turned on her after a series of unexplained deaths. Eliza's final entry read, "They will pay for what they've done. Their bloodlines will feel my wrath when the skies weep, and the earth trembles with my pain." Emma's hands trembled. She realized that everyone in the inn, including herself, was connected to the curse. She dug deeper and discovered shocking truths. Victor was a descendant of the man who had accused Eliza of witchcraft. Martha and Roger had stolen artifacts from Eliza's grave during a treasure hunt years ago. Liam's nightmares were visions of Eliza's execution passed down through his lineage. Emma herself was a distant relative of Eliza, though she had no idea until now. Chapter 5. The Haunting Begins. The storm's fury grew, and the inn seemed alive with malevolence. The lights flickered, shadows danced along the walls, and whispers echoed from empty rooms. Martha screamed when she saw a figure standing at the end of the hallway, a woman in a tattered dress, her face obscured by wet, tangled hair. The figure vanished when the others arrived. Roger tried to comfort his wife, but his own fear was evident. "We need to leave," he muttered. "You can't," Mrs. Coldwell interjected. "The curse binds you here until it's done." Chapter 6. Descent into Darkness. One by one, the group faced their worst fears. Liam saw his paintings come to life, their eyes following him accusingly. Martha and Roger heard the sound of cracking wood and screams, the echoes of Eliza's execution. Emma found herself trapped in a dream where she was tied to the pyre, flames licking at her feet. Desperate for answers, Emma returned to Eliza's journal. She found instructions for a ritual that could break the curse. It required an act of genuine remorse and a willing sacrifice. Chapter 7. The Sacrifice. The group argued over who should perform the ritual. Fear and selfishness drove them apart until Martha and Roger, overcome with guilt, volunteered.
"We're the reason this started again," Martha said tearfully. "We'll end it."
The ritual was conducted as the storm reached its peak. Emma recited the incantation while Martha and Roger offered themselves as sacrifices. A deafening scream filled the air as a shadowy figure emerged, only to be consumed by the flames of the ritual. Conclusion. When the storm finally subsided, Emma stood alone in the silent ruins of the inn. The others were gone, their presence erased as though they had never existed. The sun broke through the clouds, but Emma knew the cost of their victory would haunt her forever. Moral of the story. The tale serves as a reminder that the past has a way of catching up with those who ignore its lessons. Redemption is possible, but it often requires courage, sacrifice, and an unflinching confrontation with one's own guilt.